Here we go now.
Hey y'all, what's going on? Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. This is a pre-recorded recap of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I just have a lot going on this week. Make sure you're following me on social so you know where to find me and where I am and what's coming up and all that good stuff. But welcome back to the Kempire channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. Be sure to like this video. Be sure to share this video. I always forget to remind you guys, be sure to share this video. And also don't forget, new merch has launched. Are you okay? Merch has launched. You guys have been asking for it. So now you can get it in sweaters. You can get it in different colors. You can get it in t-shirts. There's also tour merch now available at houseofkempire.com. We're spelling house very bougie. HAUS of Kempire.com. More information will be available in the description. Go get your merch while it lasts, because I won't be keeping all the merch there. I will be making a lot of changes to that website and the merch that's available. All of that stuff will be limited edition. So especially like our old logo. So shout out to those of you who have the old logo with the elephant in it. I'm still a lover of elephants. Come on now. Where's my elephant sound? Hold on. No, that's the wrong one. I don't know. Where's my elephant sound? Damn it. I haven't used it in so long. I don't even know where it is. Where is my elephant sound? Oh, there it goes. I haven't used it in so long. I still love my elephants. You guys know I love an elephant. But shout out to those of you that have gotten the limited edition versions of the elephant logo, okay? Anyway, so there's a lot of new merch available. Just trying to get the administrative work in as we begin our Real Housewives of Salt Lake City recap. Those of you watching on YouTube, let me know how you would rate this episode. There is a live chat poll. Let me know how you would rate it from 1 to 10. Or you can just let me know your rating in the live chat. Shout out to those of you that are watching on Twitch, those of you watching on Facebook, those of you watching the replay. Be sure to let me know how you would rate this week's episode and why you are rating it that. As you can see, for those that are watching this on YouTube, so for those of you watching it, you had a little bit of a glitch in the matrix there for a second. For those of you watching on YouTube, we got the snow going. But for those that are listening, don't forget you can hear our live recaps and special episodes exclusively on the Kempire podcast. So make sure you subscribe today. I'm also releasing special episodes. You can also become a part of our Club Kempire Baddies that are available on Apple Podcasts exclusively. So become a baddie today. There's a free 3-day trial, so you can check out some of our White Lotus recaps. I talk about Big Brother there. There's all kinds of really great things that we do with Club Kempire. And I know I'm a little delayed with getting out this week's episode, but it'll be a good juicy one, okay? Promise. All right, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, they did not disappoint. This is only the second episode of season 6. And look, this is why I always say that you don't necessarily have to have a lot going on personally in order for a show to be entertaining. And Salt Lake City is a proven fact of that. Because I do feel like some of their antics are a little pre-produced, but there's a lot of real stuff happening, especially in this episode. We do get an update on Mary Cosby's son and things like that. So yeah, let me turn off this snow, because now I'm getting a little blurry. Look at me. Let me fix it. I think it's looking at my Zumomo. Yes, my little Labubu in the background. So bear with me if it gets a little fuzzy. I might have to zoom in a little bit more so you don't see my Zumomo, but I want you to see my Zumomo. All right. Anyway, focus on me. Okay. All right. So we're still on this RV trip. Again, in real life, I would not want to do this. Seeing them try to do raw meat on that. I don't even know if they even seasoned that. I'm surprised that Mary Cosby even ate it. She was looking at Bronwyn like, "What are you doing? Are you doing a good job with that? Doesn't look like you do." She's like, "Meredith, can you come make me my steak?" I don't think I would have eaten that because I don't know if they seasoned that. Was it fully cooked? Ew. But anyway, so they rehash what happened the night before in regards to that whole, the ghost of whatever. Meredith jokes in her confessional that, they're not going to let anything happen to us. That's a big liability. That felt a little performative, but this is a part of the lore of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and some of their antics, okay? So whatever. I didn't even care about that portion of the episode how it ended last week or them talking about it this week. But it was the thing about Salt Lake City that's also beautiful. Very much, I always say that for Real Housewives of New York, the other character is New York City. For Salt Lake City, it's the atmosphere of Salt Lake City. Those mountains, the nature. That's why they do a lot of nature stuff when it comes to this cast. So them going out there, taking in the mountains, and then I don't know what kind of casts those were, but they were taking pictures of that. It was like a really beautiful moment, and everyone was touched by it. Everyone was sort of like, "Oh, look at this. Let's come and see this." All right, so Heather is brushing her teeth with Whitney, and sidebar, speaking of Whitney's red hair, I talked about that last week's episode, and I vaguely remember Whitney coming out and talking about this, but you guys reminded me in the comment section, so I did want to address my comments. I still don't love the hair, but I understand the message behind the color was to be in support of her daughter, who's also a redhead. Just to be, I guess she was getting bullied at school, so that was part of the reason why Whitney decided to change the color of her hair. She's now since changed it back to blonde. I prefer her as a blonde. I think it was just the color, the color she decided, that particular red. Because I think normally Whitney probably would look good as a redhead. I think that particular shade, and maybe she was in the middle of figuring out the right shade, or she didn't really care and she just wanted to support her daughter. Either way, the message is great. I didn't love her particular color. But I get it. The message, she wanted to show support for her daughter that was getting bullied. I can understand. But I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So Whitney and Heather are brushing their teeth. And I didn't realize, I guess it depends on your face and where you're wrinkling. Because apparently Heather got Botox in her mouth. So she says she can't spit like she likes to. So why are you getting Botox? I don't know. I feel like Heather, look, your body, your choice. Do whatever you want. But I feel like she's going a little too far with some of the stuff. But that's also her business, Beauty Lab. But I don't know. I just feel like it's taking away from what naturally she looks like. But we could go down a whole rabbit hole why Heather is doing all the things that she's doing to herself. And that is because she is trying to keep up with being with the cool girls. Because she never felt like a cool girl. And remember when we were first introduced to Heather, we all thought that she was the cool girl. She was the MVP. But she's become so not that person that it's like, ugh. She's become so unlikable on this show because she's always playing second fiddle to someone else on the show. If it's not Jen Shaw, now it's Lisa Barlow. And again, if we want to use my psychology degree, a bachelor's in psychology, what we can assess is the fact that there's a couple of things that this is stemming from. Her experience in high school, her being in this religion and being a Stepford wife. This is why I say we can't get rid of Heather, because I feel like there's always another layer to what it was like growing up. Like, she really grew up in Mormonism. Like, she was a real Mormon. Unlike some of the other Mormons that are on the show that have kind of like left the religion, and they didn't seem like they ever really fit in perfectly. She seemed like she really believed in it, to the point where it still affects her life. But we'll talk about that in a second, okay? So she talks about not being able to spit. When they sit down to have breakfast, Heather opens up about Annabelle, her daughter, is going to be the last one of her daughters leaving the home. And she's actually happy about it. And her daughter was like, "Mom, it feels like ever since you and Dad broke up, you've been in fight or flight." this entire time. And when she explains it, I love this conversation, especially because I'm sure amongst mothers, when you guys get together and you're having these conversations, this is how you connect. This is how this is how you feel seen by other people by these conversations. This is why I'm sure other mothers that are watching this conversation are probably saying to themselves, oh my gosh, I felt like that too. Some people feel guilty that they're happy that their children are leaving because there are other mothers that are like, oh my God, empty nest syndrome. I feel so bad. I don't want my child to leave. And Bronwyn talks about that as well. So much so, look, this could not be me. Not in my house, not in my Jamaican household. How about you want to move some man in the house? Excuse me? You know what I mean? So she talked about she wants Gwen. She wants more time with Gwen. So she moved Gwen and her boyfriend in under their roof. Excuse me? In whose house? The Todd father's house? The Todd father's okay with this? But I feel like the Todd father very much loves Gwen too, and he doesn't want her to move out. So this is where the Todd father is just Todd and just a little cranky old man, but he's really soft on the inside. So I feel like Shaka Khan on Watch What Happens Live. I'm fiddling with myself. I'm just doing that. Look, there's nothing going on with me, y'all. There's nothing going on with me. Before y'all start in the comments, y'all see how Kempire's fixing his shirt and things like that. It's warm in here. Look. Ain't nothing going on over here. Okay, and shout out to the podcast crew because they're not even understanding this. So I'm giving you guys, for those that are listening, I'm giving you a description. I'm like fiddling with my shirt just because I also like this shirt, and the shirt is, I lost a few pounds, so it's a little loose on me. I am so silly. As you know, this is pre-recorded. So this is also after a long day watching this episode, which was enjoyable. You could tell the difference about how I feel about recapping Real Housewives of Orange County versus watching and recapping Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It's also happening at a different time. They bombarded us at the end of the week with too many Housewives shows and one that we don't love that much. But we're about to lose Real Housewives of Miami, but it's okay. Woo woo woo. We'll be strong. I'll be happy though, because I'll at least get some semblance of my Fridays back and Thursday evenings. Okay. It's very much like how I've got my Sundays back after watching Love and Marriage Huntsville. Sidebar. Can we talk about that real quick? Real quick. I promise. I saw that they were taking. We've recapped Love and Marriage Huntsville. For years. And they would take these weird mid-season breaks. So our friends at OMFG Reality TV reported that there was about to happen their big mid-season finale or something like that. And then Carlos was in the comment section, fake news, this is not true. Only for us to find out this week, they are taking a break. But I guess it's not going to be the mid-season finale. Like, sir, how is that fake news if that's exactly what's happening? They won't be back till November. Not that we care because we don't watch or recap it anymore. For those there's a handful of you that miss my recaps and a handful of you that are like, Kempire, are you not recapping Love and Marriage Huntsville? I told you at the end of last season I wasn't recapping it. And I don't miss it. I love having my Saturday nights back to myself. I'm setting myself up for when I find the billionaire. My Saturday nights are occupied. Okay? And my Friday nights and my Sunday mornings where I can lay up with my boo, okay, and not up in this studio, this hot studio. Anyway, I digress. Back to Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I can digress as much as I want because it's all related. It's reality TV related. I mean, different networks, but here we are. Okay, so back to this. So Heather shares the fact that she is excited for this next chapter because her daughter even said that she felt like she was in fight or flight mode this entire time. This is where we learned some really interesting things about Heather's dynamic with her ex-husband. So apparently her daughters spent 100% of the time with her. They never spent the night with their dad. They would only hang out with their dad once in a while to do fun dad stuff. And I don't think we even realized that. Did we? At least we're learning that right now. But I thought that was like, damn. So he never had, but again, we have to remember where she came from. When she was married to him, she took care of the kids 100% of the time. He brought home the money. Okay. But remember with Heather, not only is she taking care of the kids 100% of the time, she's also working. Beauty app. I don't know if she had to work because I can't remember. I'm sure he's taking care of the kids on some level, but at the same time, it's not like she wasn't working. She was also working. So now she probably feels like, again, this goes back to the psychology of growing up as this Mormon Stepford wife. That she felt like this. Now she feels like now she can probably let go of that chapter of her life. She's not trying to get rid of her kids, but she's trying to get rid of the stench of everything that fell under being a Mormon wife. So when Bronwyn shares her thoughts and having Gwen stay with her and her wanting that, I don't know how Heather flipped this into this weird of, so are you trying to say that I don't love my children? And look, at first I was like, okay, she's going to find any excuse not to like Bronwyn. However, then I thought to myself, well, she probably does have a little bit of a guilt, especially the mindset of a Stepford Mormon wife. She probably does have a little bit of a guilt. So anyone giving a different opinion of what's happening or how they're raising their children, she's going to be a little defensive. So I had to kind of think that through. And I was like, okay, it's not just her being contrary to be contrary. I think she really just probably also has her own guilt when it comes to her daughters leaving and her being okay with that. But I think a lot of mothers probably can relate to Heather. A lot of mothers probably also feel guilt saying that they can relate to Heather, right? Okay. All right. So they had that little bit of an interaction and talk. Whitney talks about her experience right now and what she's going through. And what she's going through is that Wild Rose Beauty, remember that company that she launched, and she talked about this in the premiere episode, about how how that business was a failure. And she kind of explains a little bit more what happened. So she merged that Wild Rose Beauty company into this other venture that Justin had. Remember, then she was being accused of an MLM, which apparently in Utah is very popular. These multi-level marketing businesses, for those that don't know what MLM means. So, and word on the street, Justin allegedly has been involved in quite a few businesses that are MLMs. And again, I think a lot of them are perfectly legal, but apparently she got a lot of backlash in this business that they formed together. It took a major hit. And they flashed back to her and Justin talking about this the previous week. And she was bawling and crying about this failed business. Look, businesses fail all the time. I kind of feel like I want to know more about what exactly really happened. I always feel like with Whitney, we're not getting 100% the full story. Because remember, it was also last season that she bought this new home after Justin just lost his job. Like that, none of that made financial sense. And then all of a sudden, you're forming this new business, and I don't know, something seems off to me. Speaking of off, a lot of these women in this episode, specifically Lisa Barlow, seemed off. Like the hair and makeup seemed off. Like something around her eyes seemed off, especially in her confession. Like one, I was like, it was, I don't know. And again, sometimes when you get fresh work and you didn't give it enough time to settle and you're going to be on camera, I'm like, okay. Look, I'm just pointing out the obvious. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying I'm paying attention to the things that we're seeing. Your body, your choice. I stand by that no matter what. Okay. I'm just paying attention. Like even Lisa's hair color. Like I like the fact that Lisa has not fallen into trying to look different and have blonde hair or do any of that stuff. I'm glad she will celebrate wearing her dark hair. I wish more people would do that. It's the same with like Kyle. But here's the thing. I feel like she's going too dark. You know what I mean? Like I like the dark hair on her, but it was like black. I don't know. It was like either washing her out, and then I think she's tanning, and then the makeup. But the thing is, too, the amount of money that Lisa claims to pay for a makeup artist, she needs a new one. I'm sorry, makeup artists. Look, next time I'm at BravoCon or in one of these spaces, they're gonna come chase me down like last time. I'm just saying the makeup makes her look older instead of younger. Remember, we talked about this last week. She's what, 2 years, allegedly 2-3 years older than me? Excuse me? Right now, what y'all seeing right here on camera is no makeup. I'm not opposed to wearing makeup, like for a photo shoot or whatever it may be. But can you imagine when I do wear makeup? I'm looking even more snatched and flawless. And then she was talking about in this Page 6 interview how she does like threading in order to kind of make her, she doesn't do Botox or anything. You might want to try the Botox just to see if that works, because I just don't feel like whatever you're doing is helping. Okay, look, I'm just saying I'm trying to help her, because if she's 47, even if she's 50, it's not giving that. Just saying. And look, Botox is a part of skincare. I don't care what anyone says. If you're trying to prevent future wrinkles, Botox is also a part of your skincare situation. Going to get facials and doing those types of things, all of that's a part of your skincare routine. If you want to know a little bit more about mine, head on over to my TikTok and check out my TikTok shop, and you can get some of my Butter Skin products. And I'm working with Butter to get us a discount code for the YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that. But if you want to, because right now the old link is no longer, we're not doing that, but you can get my Butter Skin products at my TikTok shop. Everything is at tiktok.com/@TheKempire. Okay. All right. See how I worked all that in? If you haven't already, be sure to like the video. If you are watching on other platforms, be sure to share the video. And if you're watching on YouTube, share the video. Make sure you're subscribed. It is a subscribers only live chat. We're talking about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City once again. Okay, so Mary gives an update. They move on from Whitney asked Mary, because remember, we haven't got an update on Whitney and her dad. Remember, her dad also has addiction, but Whitney revealed, I think it was last reunion, that she has not spoken to her dad in a few years. So God only knows what's going on with her dad. That's really, really sad. Addiction is sad. But Mary gives an update, and she says that, Robert Jr. has his highs and lows. He has his good days and his bad days. But that's all she gives in that particular moment. But we do get an update later on in the episode. But she gives kudos to Heather. She says, you know what? I had help with from Robert Sr. I can't imagine you with 3 kids and doing it on your own. So I thought that was actually really, really lovely for Mary to kind of give Heather her kudos in regards to that. Because she's right. I mean, that's got to be hard. Because even when she was married to that man, Heather was still raising those kids basically on her own. And then after she left that man, she also had to work and raise those kids on her own. 3 kids, 3 daughters. I actually kind of miss those scenes with her and her daughters. Those scenes were actually some of my favorite scenes with Heather. And maybe we need more of that to kind of humanize Heather again. Because all we get from Heather now is just sort of her being a puppet, and her also being a sort of producer in regards to somebody, and narrator to some of these scenes, which I can appreciate sometimes. But at the same time, we're not getting a lot of her own personal story. Here we got some personal story, but we're not seeing it. We're not at home with her. But okay. All right. They end the RV trip, and they are trying to get out of there, but they're stuck in the snow. So everyone except Mary gets out to push the RV. Do you really think the RV was stuck in ice? I don't know. I don't know if I'm just getting jaded by reality television, but it was supposed to, I think they were trying to produce a funny moment, and all the ladies got out to push the RV, and eventually it gets out. Everyone's like, Brittany's like, where's Mary? She's sitting, as the queen should, inside the RV. Okay. All right. Let's get to the next scene. So the next scene, we have Heather and Lisa sit down for a lunch, because Heather has to be the one to spill everything that happened during this RV trip. Okay. All right. Hold on. It's not focusing. Focus on me and not the Zomomo. So this is why I'm about to move. Let me move the Zomomo. Zomomo, look that way. look that way, Zomomo. That way it can focus on me. Poor thing. Look, poor thing. Oh, it's like he's in the corner. Whoa, 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 Zomomo. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You be strong. You guys want to be able to see me, right? Right. All right. I could also zoom in a little bit more so you don't see the Zomomo. It's okay. It's all right. You can see the beautiful city behind me of Salt Lake City. Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing with Heather. So they sit down, her and Lisa. This is the first time us really seeing Lisa film. Remember, I said in the premiere episode, I feel like they were trying to make this whole trip about Lisa. They're making Lisa be more important than I think she is, and I do enjoy Lisa. Like in this episode, I enjoyed some of the moments that we got from Lisa. But they really were talking about everything about her. But now I have to say, watching this scene, I felt like Lisa's energy was off. Not only was her makeup off, she looked like immediately she wanted to cry. And I don't know what that was, but then when you dig deeper into the lawsuits, because at first I didn't pay attention to the lawsuits. I was like, okay, she's getting sued. And then, one got dismissed and she had excuses for it on social media. But then what was said in one of these lawsuits that Bronwyn brings up, it reveals text messages about some other man apparently paying for her Amex bill and John not telling John about this loan. Then I was like, oh. So this might be a little bit part of the reason why she might be not wanting to address these particular rumors. Because at first I was like, why wouldn't she show up? Why wouldn't she confront, Bronwyn about this stuff? But okay. Okay. So Heather gives her the play-by-play. She says, Bronwyn did a lot of research on your lawsuits. And then she uses the word annihilate. She says Bronwyn was trying to annihilate Lisa. I don't know. And I saw, before I did this recap, I saw a little bit of Watch What Happens Live, and the audience was asked, do you think that Bronwyn was trying to annihilate Lisa? And the audience overwhelmingly said no, not annihilate. She was definitely spilling tea. And I also forgot that during the reunion, Lisa had did a lot of research, her own research on Bronwyn, and try to bring that to the reunion. So look, and these lawsuits are fair game because they're in the public. It's not like she dug up these lawsuits. No, these lawsuits were being played out on social media and in the blogs and in media outlets. So it wasn't as if she had to go far. If we're going to be honest, she didn't have to go far. She didn't do this digging herself. But Heather tries to paint a different narrative. Okay, Lisa downplays the lawsuits, and she says that one's already dismissed, one's about to be dismissed. She gives us an iconic Lisa line. She says, "No one sues for the bottom; they always sue for the top." It was definitely giving. And she might have taken notes from Karen Huger, because Karen Huger, legendary, has said, you've got to have millions to sue for millions. And then you see for next week's episode, she hosts this meeting, this lunch, whatever, and she has a poster board of her dismissed lawsuits. And to me, it was giving exactly what Karen did years ago, where she hosted the ladies and she basically was giving them a presentation on what's going on with Ray Huger. That is the energy that I was getting from what's going on with Lisa. Okay. All right. So Lisa says that she lives a very different life than the other women. And Heather's just like, I don't know why she feels like she has to make herself feel better. But mind you, you should be offended, Heather, but we know that you already feel that way. You already feel that Lisa lives a different life. That's what you want to be, a part of that life. So Lisa says, did anyone defend me besides you? First of all, did Heather say that she defended you? Because I don't recall that part. I mean, she did. But Heather only wants to be the only one. Because when asked about Meredith, she gets emotional. So Meredith didn't say anything. And she's like, Meredith. And Lisa's like, oh, she was quiet. Well, Meredith, and I said this last week, I felt like Meredith did come to Lisa's defense. Did she go all out like Heather? No. But Heather also did not mention Brittany and how Brittany had Lisa's back probably more than Heather did, if we're going to be honest. But Heather wants to be the only one. It's actually kind of scary because it's giving like Mean Girls, like she wants, or, single white female. Like she only wants to be the friend, the best friend to Lisa. She doesn't, because she knows Lisa and Meredith probably have a lot more in common than so now we understand the commentary that I mentioned last week about in the comment section what Heather said and how Meredith responded. So this is what's going to lead to the rift between Meredith and Heather, which is interesting because normally they're they're cool. So we didn't see this beef happening. I wish Heather luck because you're not that liked, Heather, anymore. And if anything, people kind of look at you as a lapdog when it comes to Lisa. And people love Lisa, but they're looking at you like, girl, like get a backbone. Like there was no need to be. You could have been honest, like, well, Meredith, she did have your back. I have to, Meredith had your back, but she didn't do that. She didn't even mention Brittany because she wanted to be the only one. It's kind of scary. Kind of scary. Okay. So Lisa gets really emotional in her confessional talking about this, but I felt like she was emotional from the jump. I was like, what is going on with Lisa? But now when you think about what is being said in one of these lawsuits, I don't think it's the lawsuits that are bothering Lisa. I think it's what the fallout has been. Also, could this be some issues between her and John, but she's not sharing that particular aspect? Because you can't tell me that this accusation's out there and that John doesn't know about this lawsuit. Yes, John does come across as a punk when it comes to Lisa, but I wouldn't be shocked behind the scenes. He's not as much of a punk as he pretends to be on the show. And he probably would be upset, like, you didn't tell me about this loan. Maybe. I don't know. But she seemed emotional in that scene, and then she gets very emotional in that confessional. That confessional look where she has her hair up, and the eye makeup seemed, or at least her eyes seemed off. I don't know what was going on there. I didn't like that confessional look. I didn't like any of her confessional looks so far this season. I mean, this is our first time really seeing her, but I didn't like any of those. But that's me. All right. So Whitney and Bronwyn go skiing and snowboarding. This is what they do in Salt Lake City, okay? Bronwyn and Whitney talk about the issues that she has with Heather, because Bronwyn feels like just when she makes some headway with Heather, it feels like she gets pushed back because they were kayaking, they were good, and then they sit down at the bonfire, and then they're back where Heather doesn't like her again. So she doesn't understand how they got to that place. Then they start talking about Lisa, and she's grateful to Whitney for having her back when she brought up the lawsuits and was talking about the lawsuits and how Lisa came for her and did research on her. Okay. Whitney says that she's so sick of the double standard because Lisa does this stuff and people allow her to get away with it. I told you these last couple of seasons, I do not want to see an issue between Heather and Whitney. I was so over it. I think that issue anyway had to do with the show more than anything really personal, but they seem to be in a better place. But Whitney says she's sick of the double standard. So she's got to be a little sick of watching Heather play second fiddle to Lisa and always sucking up to Lisa or being Lisa's lapdog. And no matter what Heather says, there are so many, like Shamia's always called the lapdog over on Real Housewives of Atlanta, or Cynthia's called the lapdog. No, we are seeing clear lapdog behavior. Well, no, Shamia too. We're seeing clear lapdog behavior from Heather. And I wouldn't be surprised at some particular point Heather will bark for us. Okay. So that is the this is where they start getting into more stuff. So this is where Bronwyn brings up the text messages that were in the lawsuit. And then they flash back to what Angie K said during the reunion about Lisa Barlow and some guy paying her bills. Kind of think that's not John. So the text messages in this lawsuit prove that Lisa did take this money, allegedly, I'm going to say, but John didn't know about it, or she didn't want him to know about it. Okay. So Braun was like, so whose money? You're talking about me spending my husband's money, but who's paying for your Amex bill? And maybe this is part of the reason we see the tension between Bronwyn and Lisa. There's a lot of tension, social media tension, though, also between Angie K and Lisa as well. Because, Lisa's like, oh, here's Angie K with her own, was it tequila? She came out of tequila, Angie K. Angie K she's an entrepreneur. So I'm not surprised that she's going to continue to entrepreneur other things outside of this. But she's already a successful entrepreneur. She has multiple salons. She does very well for herself. So I'm not surprised that she's going to entrepreneur into another business. She's like, I'm on this platform. I'm being offered all these different things. Why not? If the money's right, Good for her. Are you coming out with a sunglasses line, Angie K? You should. Just saying. She probably is working on that. I wouldn't be surprised if she's working on something like that. All right. So what else did they? So that's about all that they talk about. Then we get this scene, and I have to say, I didn't cry. I did feel some tears welling up watching the scene between Mary Cosby and Robert Jr. Robert Sr. is not going to be filming. So for those that are wondering, he probably was in the house. Word on tree, he's not. But Mary sits down with Robert Jr. to get an update on what's going on with him. Okay. And clearly, and he does admit later on that he did smoke a little weed, so he did look high. As soon as he walked in, he looked high. I don't know if it was just weed, though. But what I can appreciate from Robert Jr. is, and what I can appreciate from this conversation is that he feels safe to talk about this on camera, but also to talk about it with Mary. And I've said this before, I feel like Mary, I think people would normally think, especially because she's so religious, that she would have handled this situation a little bit differently. And I have to say, she's very modern in how she's handling the situation with Robert Jr. Understanding, she's like, you know what, she was a helicopter mom, and that might be part of the reason why he didn't come to her before. So she's trying to keep the communication door open with him. So he's sharing about how he's no longer in that dark place, but he still feels like he's in a standstill, which is there's a lot. Because now he can't be around the people that he used to be around. You know, he was just in the headlines this week, apparently going to his estranged wife's family home, and he got arrested for that. So she's also part of the people that are doing the drugs and things like that. So he feels isolated. So look, the best thing for him to do, maybe get a job. I don't know if he's working. Or get into some activities, go be a part. The main thing I think would be make sure that he's going to meetings, NA, AA. I don't know if he has an issue with alcohol too. You just never know. And I know some people will be like, well, everyone smokes weed nowadays. That shouldn't be an issue, because he does admit in this conversation with Mary that he's eating more. He's also doing weed. Sometimes can, depending on the person, can affect them in that way where they're eating more. I mean, he doesn't look like he's eating more, but he talks about doing weed. But here's the thing. When you're on a sobriety journey, when you're an addict, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I do know they say that, like, if you're going to be sober, you need to be completely sober, meaning no alcohol, no drugs of any kind. So you can see Mary's a little concerned because he admits, I'm doing it because I'm not able to be around friends and I'm feeling isolated. I am, eating more and I'm doing drugs. And when he said drugs, I immediately thought other drugs, but then he says weed. But I think he could be saying weed because he also feels like, a lot of people are going to see like that's not a big deal. I don't know, based off what we were seeing, if that was giving weed. But who knows? I'm not an expert in any of this. You guys will let me know what you think in the comment section or in the live chat. Okay. But I appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate Mary's openness in having this conversation with him on camera, but also he seems comfortable sharing with her. And you could tell she seems a little uncomfortable and concerned because she also realizes there's only so much she can do when it comes to, like, he has to want this for himself. And the more and more I see Mary give advice and how she handles the situation, the more I understand why she's a pillar in her church, why people do look up to her at the church, because I do feel like she does give good advice. We've seen it with other people. People have said it about her behind the scenes. So I appreciate this scene. And I think the only thing that we can do, if you pray or if you believe in sending good thoughts, that's all we could do for Robert Jr. The same when it comes to family, the same with Whitney and her dad. There's only so much you can do when someone's in the throes of addiction. You can just let them know, when you're ready, I'm here. And again, he's young. I personally think there are things that he could do in regards to, of course, 10 meetings. But again, you don't want him around these friends, but you also don't want him feeling isolated or bored. Because when you're isolated and bored, you start thinking of, like, how can I get that same zest for for life, and sometimes that is drugs or other drugs. So getting a job, I think, would be good for him. Volunteering would be good for him, but sitting up in that palatial home and being bored and where it's just you and your mother is not the way. It's not the way. And I've said this before when we talked about this last season. You see a lot. This is why you see a lot of drug use in small towns, because a lot of these kids are around, bored, nothing to do. This is why activities are important in these areas, to kind of keep people busy and let them know that there are other things going on in life besides television, besides games, besides doing drugs and getting into the wrong crowds and the wrong things. And finding out your purpose. I think a lot of times boredom comes from you don't know what your purpose is. And look, he could also be at the church. They have a whole church. He could be volunteering at the church, cleaning up. I'm going to make you the maintenance guy. Go clean up. You know what I mean? But again, I'm not the parent here. I'm just giving suggestions. Okay. All right. Let's move on from there. Heather and Bronwyn sit down to have a conversation. At first, when I saw this scene, I was like, I don't think there needs to be a sit down. But fine, let's have this sit down. And they do. They do have a sit down, and they talk about their issues and what happened during the RV trip. One thing I will give Bronwyn credit for is that she is very sensible. And she comes in immediately apologetic and saying that is not what I meant, but if I made you feel that way, I am so sorry. A lot of these other housewives could learn a thing or two about maturity and how to apologize, because she recognizes, although her intention wasn't to be malicious or judgmental, she in that moment was like, I may have said something that made you feel that's what I was doing, but I need to let you know that's not what I meant. But I apologize for making you feel that way. And I appreciate how she handled that conversation. Heather, though, I feel like she is just dead set on not liking Bronwyn because of her loyalty, blind loyalty to Lisa. And I don't think Lisa would have that same blind loyalty to Heather or alliance. I do feel like that relationship is an alliance. Okay. So Bronwyn tries to clear up whatever happened during the RV trip with Heather. They do end up making it to a better place in their conversation. But Heather says that she feels like Bronwyn does a lot of word salad around the rest of the group. Bronwyn in her confessional, she's like, a word salad? Like, what are you talking about? And I don't know. I do feel like, well, Bronwyn's also a Virgo. Got to bring it back to astrological signs. She is a Virgo, so I wouldn't be surprised that she is saying a lot of stuff. I don't know if I would describe it as a word salad. Sometimes she can be a little word salady. She can be. Sometimes I'm like, But I think Heather, again, just is going to be determined to keep a wall up when it comes to Bronwyn until Lisa and Bronwyn are good. Please understand, when Lisa and Bronwyn are good, Heather all magically will see it for Bronwyn. Just saying. So speaking of which, Bronwyn says that they talk about the issues that Bronwyn's been having with Lisa. And Heather asks Bronwyn, says, why did you drop all that data about Lisa? And Bronwyn just feels justified because this is exactly what Lisa has been doing to her. And she's been attacking her on social media. So producers show all the tweets, 2 tweets, about what Lisa has said about Bronwyn. I can understand. I could definitely understand why Bronwyn doesn't see it for Lisa. You remember how it ended up last season where Bronwyn really wanted to be Lisa's friend. And she saw by the end of the season that was not going to happen. Okay? But Bronwyn says that this situation with Lisa does affect her relationship with Heather. And I think that's solely because of Heather. I do. I do think that Lisa expects some sort of loyalty from Heather. But I do agree with Bronwyn. Heather and Bronwyn will never be close. I saw Andy Cohen said that, I like seeing you and Heather be close and have, interact. I can't say that I love it. I do find it weird, especially because I feel like they're fighting over something that's not necessarily that big of a deal. And I feel like they've been on this like whirlwind of just stupid drama that it doesn't need to be that deep between them. I can't say that I can see these two being the best of times, but you never know. Maybe if they're able to let go of all these issues, that they could be fun to watch together. But when you see their boss say, I like seeing you guys get along, that's sort of Andy's way of saying, like, I want to see you guys get along. It's almost like the Godfather. He's the Godfather of Bravo. So anytime he says that about he does this often. He's like, I like seeing you two get along and get over the stuff and things like that. I think the housewives in their heads are sort of like, oh, so he wants us to get along, huh? I feel like there's an insinuation there. In my opinion, I'm not saying that it's fact. I feel like there's an insinuation that the executive producer, the godfather of this show, is like, I want to see you guys get along, get over whatever the issue is. Oh, okay. All right, sir. Fine. We'll get over it. All right. Let's get to this Amy's Saturday social. I was actually surprised that they were going to be going to an event of a Utah socialite who I don't think she was trying to be on the show. Maybe they were. We'll probably find out later. I'm sure they probably had conversations with her. She probably actually has money. A lot of people that actually have money and status do not want to be on reality television and do not want to be on the show. So I did find it surprising that Amy hosted this event and allowed cameras to be there. But she's social, so maybe she doesn't care. But there were a whole lot of people in that house. It was like too many people. Like, I get it, hosting an event and having guests. It felt like a crowd. I was like, this is a lot. But maybe this is one of her many homes, I'm assuming, and that's part of the reason why she doesn't mind cameras. And because that's the other thing too, when these cameras come in your home, they're setting up lighting, there's wires, there's cameramen, da. It's a lot of stuff. Like, it's not something I would want in my home, and I don't know if they clean up after they leave. Doubt it. So this event she's hosting, which was interesting because we didn't even hear a peep from Amy. We just saw Amy and her husband and them hugging and saying, hey. So it makes me wonder if Amy was being considered for this season, or it just happened that, they're friends with this woman and she allowed them to film at this event. Okay. I was a little impressed. I mean, the home, they didn't really show the home. Again, she's not on the show. But I was impressed with when people arrived, they had the champagne wall. You pull the bell and a hand comes out and gives you champagne. Seth says, oh, it's a glory hole of champagne. What you know about a glory hole, Seth? Okay, some people will say, well, he has a gay son and he's young people, and Meredith is a LGBT advocate. This is how he knows about a glory hole. Mm-hmm. Some of y'all don't even know what a glory hole is. Like, all the heterosexual women in the chat are like, what's a glory hole? I'm sure Mr. Melanin Magic's in the chat. Mr. Melanin Magic, can you please let people know in the chat what a glory hole is? Or if you are someone that knows, please explain it for the crowd. I don't want to demonetize this channel by explaining what it is. But please understand, it's mostly in the gay world. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen in the heterosexual world. I'm sure it does. However, it's very popular in the gay world. And I found it to be, because if you know of anything that I've said about Seth Marks over the years, I find him to be interesting. Okay, Seth.
How you doing?
It's like the glory. And Meredith is like, huh? He does and says the weirdest things. I could not be married to him, but fine. And I'm saying this as a gay man. Like, I could not, as a gay man, be married to Seth Marks. Okay? All these weird comments that I'm like, oh, okay. And I told you that was one of my biggest problems watching him on Next Gen NYC. We never recapped it, but when I was on tour, I talked about it on tour. And I talked about it briefly. I forgot where. One of these videos. Or maybe when I was live on TikTok. I don't know. This is why you need to follow me everywhere. You never know what I'm going to talk about and where. So when he was on Next Gen NYC, the weird conversations that he had with the young men on that show, I said, if he was having those conversations with young women, you guys would say a lot more. I felt like he was very inappropriate with those young men on that show, asking about their sex life. I was like, this is weird. like, it's one thing to ask about your son's sex life, but these people that are not your children and they're your children's friends. But okay, y'all okay with it. But if he was asking your daughter that, y'all would say a whole other thing. Like, I'm like, keep the same energy, guys. These are young kids, you know? And this is why young men that are abused never, I'm not saying that he's abusing them, but I'm saying this is why young men that are abused, or if someone's inappropriate with them, they don't come forward. Okay. But anyway, I've digressed. I'm not saying that's what Seth is, but I felt like what he did on Next Gen NYC was inappropriate. Okay. Fast forward to this moment where he calls this the glory hole of champagne. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty. So Meredith and Brittany meet up with Lisa. Arrives, and Lisa asks her, like, so what else happened at this event? Because I think she wanted to see Meredith's perspective, because she felt like Meredith didn't defend her. But Meredith and Brittany's there with Jared. Cyborg, there's a conversation, Seth asking Jared about, so are you in love with Brittany? His hesitation said everything that I needed to know. I don't know if he just likes being on the show. I'm assuming. I think he's as thirsty as she is. And maybe because he's the cousins to the Osmonds. So maybe he wants some notability outside of being a cousin. His hesitation on whether he's in love with her, and they were like, are you madly in love with her? Are you madly in love with her? He don't love that woman. I don't even think they're together now. It's weird, Brittany. Girl, you don't need a relationship to be on this show. Okay? You're quirky and weird enough as a friend of. Friend ofs don't need a man on the show. Get a new one. One that's not thirsty to be on camera. But again, there are a lot of men that don't want to film reality television. So she's like, oh, I'll do this with you. Sidebar, speaking of which, Watch What Happens Live, the Todd father didn't come out. The Todd father was sitting in the back, and Andy pointed that out. He was like, you know, there are a lot of husbands that come here that want to sit out here and be on camera. The Todd father's sitting in the back, not interested. I'm sure, especially after last season, he probably thought it would end up a certain way, and he probably didn't like how he was portrayed. You will see him film this season. We see a preview for next week, and you do see him film, but I don't blame. Like, this is what I can respect about the Todd father, okay? But anyway, I've digressed. So Meredith and Brittany update Lisa on what happened. That's where Brittany says, like, oh, well, Angie compared your lawsuits to Jen Shaw. So this is where Lisa gets so upset. To Jen Shaw, our former friend that's incarcerated? Yes, that one. But you have to remember, Angie did take it back immediately after she said it. She did take it back immediately. She was like, okay, well, maybe that's an exaggeration. It was clearly an exaggeration. And if anything, Angie should have just called Lisa ahead of it and was like, we were talking about your lawsuits, and I compared you to Jen Shaw. I didn't mean that, but we know that Lisa and Angie are not going to remain friends this season. So Lisa goes to confront Angie about what she said during the RV trip, but only to be interrupted because Bronwyn hears her name. And she's like, why don't you and I have the conversation? Your issue is with what I said during this RV trip. So there becomes a back and forth. And look, there were a few moments from Lisa that were hilarious. She's just like, I'm not talking to you. You're loitering. You're loitering in this conversation, basically, she's saying. Then she says, you're a gout D sucker. I had to rewind. I was like, what did she say? All I heard at first was the D sucker part. But then she was like, you're a gout D sucker. Excuse me? So the women react in their confessionals. I thought you get gout in your feet. I didn't know you can get in your private area. I don't know any expert on that. But is Lisa saying that the Todd father has gout? And maybe that was something that was said before. Maybe he did have gout at some particular point. But Lisa bringing that up, she's like, you're a gout D sucker. This is where Lisa is funny, where you're like, okay, Lisa, all right, stop with, like, you're doing a lot. Okay, wait, hold on. Where's my,
Poor behavior.
Oh, not whore behavior. Sorry.
That's really upsetting to me, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't say that.
Okay, gout D sucker. I have to say, I giggled to myself. I was like, what is happening right now? What is that? Okay, all right. So I will say though, Bronwyn, very much like a Virgo, if you're going to argue with a Virgo, you better have your points together. And what I noticed, the energy that I was getting between Lisa and Bronwyn, because I do believe at some point during the season, Bronwyn was a fan favorite. I don't think it ended up that way, but there was a point where people were like, I kind of like Bronwyn. And what I saw in their argument, I felt like these two are battling to be like the queen of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And we already know who I believe is the queen. It's Mary Cosby. And mind you, Mary Cosby is like literally in the middle of them. Okay? And Mary Cosby, when she brought up the whole gout D-sucker, she's like, are we going there? Are we going below the belt right now? So Bronwyn, I have to say, she was coming at Lisa with everything. Like, oh, you're loitering in the conversation. You're loitering. Oh, well, whatever. You're a gout D-sucker. You suck the D so that he'll pay your Amex bill. So apparently that was something that Bronwyn must have told Lisa years ago, and Lisa's bringing it up now. And she's like, well, yeah, my Amex bill comes in a box because of how much she spends. I'm like, oh, excuse me. But here's the thing. Bronwyn has a response. Bronwyn is like, yeah, I suck my husband's D. Like, I enjoy being with my husband. Who are you? Who's paying your bills? Because according to the court documents, someone else. And she's like, that's not in the court documents. Only for the editors to pull up the court documents, and they bring up that portion of where it says it in the court documents that Lisa Barlow apparently, allegedly, this is what the plaintiff is accusing her of paying her Amex bill. Okay, so I thought that was really interesting that Bronwyn really had an answer for everything. And like I said before, as she's a Virgo, I'm not surprised. They're very good at coming at you with the facts of the situation. She's like, I'm proud. Like, this is my husband. Like, who's paying your bill? Does John know? Does John know who's paying your bill? So Lisa's just like, I'm not doing this, whatever. You're loitering in the conversation, and she keeps bringing the gout D sucker, da da da. Dare I say, you guys will let me know in the live chat. Who do you think won that argument, Lisa or Bronwyn? Let me know. And if you're watching the replay of this, let me know who do you think won in that argument. If you're watching on Twitch, let me know. Who do you think won in that argument? Dare I say, I have to say, Bronwyn held her own. Oh, and here I go frozen. Let me pause. As I do that, guys, don't forget to like the video. Be sure to share the video. This is a pre-recorded recap of our Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion. A reunion? Really? Not reunion. Our recap of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City's episode 2. Look, things happen. I still have not changed the wire that I've been telling y'all for months now that I need to change, just to test to figure out if it's a wire or if it's the contraption connecting the wires. And I have the replacement. I just need to change it to figure out which one. But look, when we're trying to but for the most part, all the tech usually works. It's just that when it freezes, but at least the audio never freezes. For those that are listening to the audio version, you're like, huh, what happened? But for those that are listening to the audio, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Okay? If you enjoy the content here, those are little free ways of supporting. Also, telling a friend to tell a friend. Shout out to all of you that came to the Kempire After Dark live shows and you brought friends that you introduced to my content. I appreciate that. That's how we will build. That's how we will get to 1 million subscribers on YouTube, more followers on TikTok. Sidebar though, the world of TikTok is changing, and I can't promise that I'll still be over there on TikTok. So if you follow me on TikTok and you're not subscribed here, you're not following me here, even though you're probably watching this, or if you're listening to this, make sure you're following me on YouTube. Make sure though you're also following me on all the places, because again, these platforms, as you saw with Jimmy Kimmel of it all, okay? We're not going to get into the I'm just saying, you're here today, gone tomorrow off of these platforms, unless you own the platform. But yeah, okay. So make sure you're following me everywhere. And also, don't forget, for those that may be missing our YouTube podcast versions, because some of you watched or listened to the podcast here on YouTube, and it used to be uploaded under the Kempire channel. Now it's being uploaded on the Kempire Radio YouTube channel. So make sure you're following that YouTube channel as well. Okay? Okay. Thank you. All right. What else did I want to say about this episode? Because literally the episode ends with the argument between Bronwyn and Lisa. Next week, maybe we'll get back to, it depends again, guys. Cause look, I have to say the last few weeks I've been really busy between, we had the live event with Butter. I have podcast interviews that I'm doing. I got things like I still have not taken a trip yet in 2025. So stay tuned. We will, of course, this week have our Real Housewives of Miami recap live. So you guys can call in and share your thoughts. And maybe I will do another separate live so you guys can share your thoughts on Salt Lake City. But not every episode or live recap will we be able to take live callers because, sometimes I'll have to pre-record them because the life be life. And part of me not feels guilty, but more so is sort of like, I like to keep our normal schedule. But then I also have to kind of give myself grace and be like, I have other things that I need to take care of. I got to go to the chiropractor. I got to do Pilates. I'm trying to keep the body right. Keep my health. I got appointments and make sure I'm good. Get my vaccination. Yeah, vaccination, as Karen Huger says. I got my flu shot, though. My arm is good, though, now. That was last week. I got my flu shot. Just because God forbid I get the flu and I'm laid up. Who's coming here to take care of me? Be quiet. All right. I appreciate you all being here. If you haven't liked the video already, be sure to like the video. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I would probably give this episode, I thought it was a good episode. I'm going to give this episode an 8. I thought it was a good episode. I was entertained. And normally, I would rewatch these episodes multiple times, but this is pre-recorded, so I only got to watch it once. But I did stop, go, rewind to talk about different things. But again, if I miss anything, I'll talk about it maybe in the podcast version. Maybe. We'll see. Or I'll talk about it during next week's recap of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. How long was this one? This was over an hour, though. Look, I gave you a nice, juicy episode, unlike my 30-something minute episode of Real Housewives of Orange County. No word on what that's going to look like this week. Just saying. I have a busy week. I got things going on. I'm also going to be on another podcast. I can't mention any of them just yet. But again, make sure you're following me on socials so that you know when I'm on some of these other podcasts and things like that, talking about a bunch of stuff. I have a couple that I'm really excited. So stay tuned. Stay tuned, guys. Again, reminder for those that are still here with me watching this, make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure your notifications are on. Make sure that you've liked the video. Thank you to our King's Guards for always holding us down in the live chat and in the comment section. Thank you to our subscribers. And of course, thank you to our channel members. We could not do this, keep the lights on without your monthly support. So thank you to those of you that have been members for weeks, months, or years. We appreciate that. Become a member today at TheKempire.com/join. And don't forget new merch. Look, we do all of these things, guys, because look, as I said to you before, none of these platforms are promised. So these multiple streams of income are important for content creators or entrepreneurs like myself. Support us as Black creators especially, and support some of the guests that I've had here on my channel as well in this way if you can. Merch, houseofkempire.com. Go get your merch. I've posted tour merch. I've posted the Are You Okay merch as well. So if you haven't already, be sure to check that out. More information on that. CAMEO if you want a birthday wish, anniversary wish, or you just want some tea, or you just want to ask me something, which someone just did the other day asking me about why I haven't covered Blake Lively and that whole lawsuit with Jason Baldoni. I did a cameo for that. Everything Kempire is available in the description of this video. Okay? Thank you all for being here. I will see you all during our Real Housewives of Orange County and Miami recaps. Okay, so stay tuned for that. I will see you guys later. Be sure to check out some of the latest videos. I have been posting other videos here on the channel, updating you on different hot topics because we don't just talk about Real Housewives here. We talk about everything in pop culture, and I appreciate it. All right, y'all. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Here we go now.